Next up, we have Will McDonald, the fourth, out of Iowa State, who is a very interesting player. He's a pass rusher. He's been soaring up draft boards as of late, especially as a result of some of his combine stuff, some of the pro day stuff you guys can see there. 6'4", 239, ran a 4.66 40 at his pro day, had an 11-foot broad jump at the combine, 36-inch vertical. Very impressive at his, just for his position, but at those measurables. 34 7/8 inch arms, which are certainly what you're looking for at that DN spot. One negative that we're definitely going to talk about in this one, though, the age. 24 years old before he plays a snap in the NFL. You know, I've seen him as high as 17th on some people's big boards. I think that's a little bit generous for a guy who it's going to be tough to get a second contract, right? But we'll cross that road when we get there. You know, as far as the statistical production, it looks pretty good, right? You know, but I'm looking at this and I'm kind of asking myself, why wasn't this somebody that I watched in the 2021 draft class or the 2022 draft class? Like, why am I watching him in 2023 now, right? That's for me kind of the question with Will, and it goes back to that age question, because, you know, I might be able to frame some of these areas and, you know, negatives of his game in a different light if he was a younger guy who's coming off a 10.5 sack season and has these athletic intangibles, right? But now it's kind of on the other side. Like, why? What are we doing here? You know, I don't know. I don't want to talk too bad on him, because I don't hate Will McDonald by any means, but I just have some questions about the way he plays, where they're playing him. I don't really get what Iowa State was doing. They were lining him up inside. He was a 3-tech or 4-eye. It felt like more than he was an edge rusher at times, and I just don't think that's where he's going to make his money. As far as where he is, it's, like I said, the explosiveness and quickness. He's one of the twitchiest guys in the draft. I don't think there's any denying that. It probably didn't matter if he came out in the 2017 draft class. He probably would have been just as explosive and quick. Just the ability to beat guys off the snap, whether it's upfield, whether it's across their face, into B-gap. I shouldn't really say that because he's lined up in B-gap half the time, but you guys get what I'm saying. Just a very quick and athletic dude. Ability to set the edge? No. 239 pounds I have on my whiteboard here. Played at times like he was 220. And I think this is something people are overlooking. They see the upside as, oh, the athletic speed rusher. I'm seeing teams down block him to death. They're going to reach him to death. We're going to run at him to death. Point of attack. Where is it? Find number 9. Because that's where we're running, right? I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's what we're seeing on a lot of these plays. And I have some questions. You know, I really do. That one might have been unfair. It looked like he was slanting in that direction, but I think you guys kind of get where I'm coming from. We're running outside of him. We're running right at him. We're doing everything. Good motor. Ready. He's chasing it down. Well, that's a category later, right? But, man, just as a runner, the ability to anchor, I just have some questions. Where I don't have many questions is the flexibility and bend. I thought it was there. Like I said, once he gets upfield, once he beats you at that speed, being able to put a foot in the ground and bend that tight edge, wrap around, get the QB, it's there, right? I think that's why he had as much sack production as he did. It's just tough to see it when he's lined up as a 4-eye or a 3-tech, right? Next up, the hand usage. It was solid, right? He can hit you with a litany of moves. As a pass rusher, I'll say. As a run defender, I certainly have some more questions. That'll be more so the next category. But just as a pure pass rusher, he has some strength. He has some quick hands at times. He rushes with a plan decently. Nice bull rush there. Good job converting speed to power. But I just think there's a few questions here. As far as the block deconstruction, right? I think once you get the mitts on him, a lot of times they're on him. You know? That's just kind of the impression I got. And I know I have generally some positive plays here of him shedding blocks, but you kind of go back to all those plays where the edge was just getting caved down right on him. Guys are reaching him. I mean, he's backdooring a play there. That's more quickness than anything. But yeah, I just have some questions. The ability to stack and shed a guy. He has the really long arms. I wish I saw him in action more. I wish I saw him piercing the chest of his opponent, bench pressing him off of him, and then locating the ball and finding it. I just don't quite see that. Well, I do see that was a relentless motor. And that's where I attribute a lot of his production to. He's a guy who is both athletic. He's a lot of times more athletic than you, and he's going to try harder than you. And in many instances, you only need one of the two. And he does bring two of the two as a pass rusher on a pretty frequent basis. So yeah, I gave him a very good grade here, 8.25 out of 10. One of the higher motor grades I've given on the year. Never really quits on a play, whether it is run or pass. Some of the pass ones look better than maybe some of the run plays. But he's trying, he's chasing, he's diving, he's doing a good job in that regard. Motor is something you definitely can't take away from him. And I think if you are going to take Will McDonald high in the draft, the motor is a big reason why. Because you're hoping you can take the motor from the games on Saturday and you'll see him on the practice field Monday through now Saturday. As far as the block rec, this is another spot where I gave him a low grade. You see it right here, right? A down block, what are you supposed to do against a down block? You're supposed to fight over top of it. So we know he can do it, right? We know he can do it. Now we're going to play examples of the exact same blocks. Down block, what's he do? He goes the wrong way. He's on the left edge here. What's he going to do? Down block, well, okay, that's a busted play. But eventually they run the ball right at him, and he's nowhere to be found. He's on the right edge here. Down block, actually reaching. What are we doing? He's getting reached. The ball's going outside of him. He's dipping inside. I just don't know, man. I don't know. For a guy, and I think for a guy who's in his fifth year, those are the areas that I wish were cleaned up. That's what I need to see. I need to see a higher IQ guy. I need to see someone who's not just trying hard, but I need to see someone who's keyed into what the opposing team's trying to do. And eventually at some point, you got to fight back, and they're just going to down block you to death. Sometimes you just got to bone up and make a play. Maybe I'm being too mean. I don't know. Finishing tackling was good. We saw all those stats and, the sacks, the tackles. I thought he did a good job there. I thought you saw the athleticism quite a bit there. The leverage I thought was generally fine. At the same time, a lot of times it didn't matter. You can have great leverage, but if you're just getting driven back 4 yards, well, does it matter? Does it matter? I think that's the question of the video, right? How much does it matter? that I think he's, I'll say, a liability against the run. How much does it matter? I don't know. For me, quite a bit. And that's why, as far as my grade's concerned, we'll get on it in a second here. Not a very high one. In that regard, I was a little bit worried, right? I was like, well, everyone seems higher on Will than I do. Maybe I need to go back to last year's tape where he supposedly played more edge rusher and run a 2021 film session. So I pulled him up against Kansas State. We're going to just play a bunch of plays here. And kind of just tell me what you guys think, right? Supposedly he's going to play on the edge more here. Do you think he looks better in the categories where we were calling him out? I mean, there's a nice tackle, right? Good job working back down the line of scrimmage. That's solid. We're going to show more plays than usual for a game here. Run outside in his direction. What's he doing? He's backdooring out of the play entirely. He's off the right edge here. What do we got? Plays going outside. He starts by working outside, right? That was a decent block rec early, but then dips back in late and gets blocked by a tight end. Just some questions. Backside. He's cool backside, right? He's got the athleticism to chase anything down. He's got the motor to chase it down, right? That's all fine and dandy. Backside read option, great. Going up against a big old tight end number 34, fine. Decent hand usage. But I was hoping to have some of those areas that I had questions about answered. Beautiful spin, right? We talked about the hand usage and the pass rush moves earlier. They're there. He'll hit them. You see the motor here? Good pursuit angle. He would have chased that down. Nice hands there. Really nice hands. And this was, I will say, this was his most productive game from 2021. So I went looking for supposedly the best we have of Will McDonald. And it's not bad. Like, I don't want you guys to think I hate this guy by any means. I just don't have him in my top 20. Or maybe top 120. No, I don't want to say that. But I don't want to put the cart before the horse here. But I have him graded as a 73, which for me is the end of the third round. I see some positives, but for every positive I see almost a grade or negative, you know? And we can say run your ability to defend against the run doesn't matter as much, at least, as it used to. Agreed. But it still matters somewhat. You know, it's the same reason, you know, I'll give you guys a spoiler. I'm probably not as high on Kalijah Cansey as most. This is when things kind of pick up for Will. We're getting towards the end of the game in this one, and now he can just tee off, right? You know, they're behind. They're going to throw the ball. What can I do? I can just be a flamethrower off the edge. I mean, we see the burst. The burst is there, right? I gave him a 13.5 out of 15 on that one. I don't know what more we want. The bend is there. Strip sack. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. That's textbook. But at the next level, and now we're gassed. This next play, now we're gassed. And it's like, that's going to be the end of the game pretty much, if I'm not mistaken. And guys at the next level are only going to be better athletes. You know, so if you're a guy who, I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but you're a guy who's in college for 5 years, and I think teams maybe found out some of the weaknesses over the years. And I think at the next level, I don't know where you can hide Will. I really don't. You know, is he a 4-3 D end at the next level? The only guy on the outside of your defense? You know, you think you can put Will McDonald there and he can hold up an edge? He can force everything back inside him versus Andrew Thomas? You're going to say, man. So then you say, okay, in a 3-4, do you put him at outside linebacker? Is he a stand-up guy? Probably. That way he has a 4 tech inside of him lined up on the tackle, right? He's just going to be doing some ancillary stuff against the tight end, but then you're probably going to have him in coverage more often than not. Not more often than not, but he'll have to have more coverage than he did there. He was just so out of position by the coaching staff and then on his own volition. It's tough to project. And if he was, like I said earlier, if he was 21, I think I'd be more willing to do it. We'll see that in a couple of videos whenever I put out Felix under DK Uzoma. But Will McDonald, fun player to watch in some respects, in others a frustrating player. I'll be honest with you guys. I know probably going to be a disliked video because, you know, some teams are going to take him in the first round, second round. You know, if it's in round 2, I don't mind it as much. But for me, if it's in round 1, late round 1, you know, you get a guy in a 5-year deal, and by the time he's up for an extension, he's 29. He's probably going to be out of the league. Like, it's just tough. You know, I don't want to say he's going to be out of the league. That's very disrespectful. But you look back at, like, the career path of, say, Ziggy Ansah, right? What was it? It was 5 years with the Lions, and then 2 or 3 one-year deals because he was an older prospect. If I'm not mistaken, he was 24 years old as well as a rookie. So even if you do perform really well on that first contract, you get a couple good years for your team there. Does he get a second contract with a team? That's my concern. And when I'm drafting, I'm not just drafting for next week. I'm drafting for 5 years from now. In some spots, I'm drafting for 10 years from now. You know, if I'm at the very top of the draft. So the higher you're taking Will, the bigger of an investment he is. And in that regard, I'm just having some difficulties there rationalizing that. I think I'd feel personally, when I say third round, I'm saying where I would feel comfortable taking him. I feel comfortable taking Will sort of in that mid to late third round range. If you told me pick 75 and below, I'd feel pretty good about it. Just off the top of my head. In that regard, as a day 2 guy, only a 4-year player, you could maybe start thinking of a second contract, right? Like, he's almost a guy I would want to wait until the second round to get. And he should probably want to wait till the second round. It'll be less money right away, but it might be more money long term. Just something to think about if you're the McDonald family there. Not that they have a choice in the matter, but I think it'd probably be easier to get a second deal. Like if you get a 4-year deal and then another 4-year deal, now we're at 32-year-old Will McDonald. That's a little bit more feasible than 29-year-old Will McDonald trying to get a, especially when you're a guy who wins off speed and athleticism. At some point, that's going to fade. And I don't know. I hate these videos where I'm lower on a guy than the consensus, because I do think in the right spot he can do well. If you put him on a team where it doesn't matter how good he is against the run, right? Say Kansas City took Will McDonald. You're always playing from ahead. The other team is always trying to pass. That last drive we saw there against Kansas State, that's what every drive will be like for the second half of the game. Just, for example, he's going to tee off. Yeah, he'll go crazy. You put him on a D-line with Chris Jones, he'll go crazy. You put him on a D-line with where he's the best player, second best player, it's going to be a weak D-line. It's going to be a weak D-line. And in that regard, I don't expect thumbs up on the video. It was probably a pretty weak video for you guys because I assume most of you want positivity about Will. And the positivity is the upside. It's the athletic upside. It's that he takes the high motor, he applies it during the day, in the weight room, day in, day out, learning the playbook. He's able to hit the ground running fast, right? And that's the one upside with some of these older rookies at times. They're able to hit the ground running fast, and then you're just going to ride that out and see where that takes you. But as a long-term investment, that's where I start to have questions about Will. And I hope he proves me wrong. I really do. And I hope he goes to a spot where he's able to show that, because I think that's what he needs. Maybe it's a San Francisco where they have a variety of guys and they can rotate him out of the game on short yardage plays. That's not a bad idea. But just a straight up every down player, which I think is what you're saying if you draft him, top 20, top 25. There are some questions. Certainly some questions. Because if a college OC is gonna single you out during those position meetings and team meetings on Tuesday during the week and say, hey, on Saturday, we're running right at their best player. Right? That's what they essentially said against Iowa State. What did I watch? I watched 5 games. Every snap, 5 games. That's what it felt like every single team said. Whether it was, I watched Texas, I watched Kansas State 2 times, TCU, right? We watched some good running games, some good running backs. But every week on Tuesday, when they're developing the game plan, Monday night, when they're developing the game plan, what did they say? Well, yeah, their best player's number 9. Let's pound the rock right at him. Well, that's where I have problems. So, 3rd round for me, Will McDonald, good player. I have questions about being a great player. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next video. Peace, guys.